Okay, what about the 1994 Draco Reptilian Invasion? It seems people are still quite interested in that, even though I've already posted 2 videos about it. Seems like there was an invasion. Some people are still holding on to dense energies in the body because of it. Do you have anything to say about it?
Yes, when we resetted the timelines, we did not think that the memories would surface through. However, the trauma was a lot more severe than what we expected. This was a big tragedy. We do not want to go into too much detail as we feel that because that trauma holds so deep in many people still, we do not want to go back to that. We do not want them to relive all these things. Why keep focusing on it? But we know that the people who are more obsessed with it, those are the people who have trauma from it.
Mm.
The people who are so curious to know, it's because inside they know that they were there. As we can say, many people on this planet are in sleeves, such as Natasha. She was in a sleeve. So when the attack happened, they used a machine and they locked the dimensional space. They locked it in a way that energy could not move to and from other dimensions. So the way we would say is there is a Stargate portal within the vessel. However, you can only access it once you have connected to the heart. Then you can travel to and from dimensions from the inside. But if you're not connected to that, you have to do it from the outside, which means you have to go through the steps of different planes. You cannot immediately just jump to and from areas. There are some who can do this, but a very, very small group, but they are here for a specific reason to do things. And they are specific, as we would want to say, ET beings, but that is just a vast concept. We do not want to perceive them as ETs. They are just other beings who have these gifts to move to and from. It is not to see them as higher than you or lower than you. Each one has a specific group, a specific way of doing things. And now what has happened was many humans on this planet became the problem. Yes, there was influence from these other groups. However, these groups are always going to do what they do. They were created to be the ones to hold this experience. It is selfish to think that they are evil when many beings, as we could say, fear anger. There had to be a time and a space for things to be experienced. So, like the Draco, they were the group created to experience these dense emotions. They could only feel about up to 3 or 4: anger, fear, guilt, and greed. These are the main aspects that they were created to feel and perceive and gather information on, where there were other planets who had joy, love, happiness. Others had all sadness, loneliness. Each extraterrestrial race, as we could say, not all, but many were tasked with planets to only experience. That's why many beings come from these planets, because they mastered those emotions there. Now, all that is streaming here. So basically, each group or each star system comes from a different chakra space, as we can say that they come from a different dimensional space, density level, where they are connected to that song and frequency to create the gap so that we could go, oh, this is how anger works and how it feels. All right, we can put it into the human being and they can experience things as such. This is love. We can put it in here as such. This is happiness. And this is how the construct was created so that there could be multiple emotions and things so that a more in depth experience could happen. So, with that said, yes, they could be seen as more evil from the perspective, but it is the only thing they could experience. So, of course, when human beings started to lie more in that side and in that shadowy aspect of them, They basically let go of the driver's seat and allowed these aspects to come in and drive. And then they wanted more from them and connected to them. There was nothing done wrong on the plane, because if you free willingly allow them to come into your field and sway your life, that is your decision, where you could have the same with your higher selves and higher dimensional beings. So they are not playing, or as we could say, coloring outside the lines. However, it was the human beings on the planet who became so intoxicated with this that they started creating things that they did not understand yet. They got these concepts from these beings. However, these beings only have it from their level of perception. Just because some is from the sixth, they do not know what's going on in the seventh and the eighth and the ninth dimension. You can only perceive from this dimensional density from where you are from. So if they are from these ones, they can only perceive from these ones. So they were giving the humans information here, and these humans thought they knew how the universe works and how everything works, and then they took from only this level of perception and tried to create something. It was the same with Atlantis. They took it too far. That's why they needed to be stopped, and that is when the vessels got locked. However, with this invasion coming in, the invasion started with the humans. The humans created the invasion that allowed these different beings to come in. They created frequency planes all over
Mm.
the world that created such a low vibration that when these beings came here, they were not just in an energetical form, they became a physical form. And because they have these only different perceptions that they can work through, they only acted as such. Many of the population got wiped out. Many were tortured endlessly. Some died quicker. Those were the lucky ones. Others not, because they fed from the fear and the frequency that came out of many. They were feeding off the physical energy. So
Mm.
some people they kept on the planet in these 2 years and tortured them to feed off of them as food, as we can say. This is why many are struggling to let go of it, because they were so traumatized on such a deeper level that this energy can't move out. We have been trying, when we wipe the memories, to reset it, but the damage was done too severely to the vessels in this now time, as we can say. Let us use an example. Let us use Natasha's mother. She did not have a very pleasant journey. Out of all of them, she was the one who had it the worst. She had physical trauma to her spine and body. We do not want to go into the details, as this will bring up very dark memories for her, which we do not feel that she's ready for. Because of the light shining in her body now, if that memory trauma comes up, it is at such a lower density
Mm.
than the light in her vessel that it physically rips through her tissue, which is creating the damage. And this is also still happening to a lot of people. The only way to now is to let go of that stagnant frequency in the body. Many teams have tried to cloak their memories that they don't get back, but some have already gotten back the memories, some not. This is something that is happening from the inside of the vessels. This is why we're trying to get everybody to connect back to the inner technology, because then their higher selves can come from the inside and do the healing and not from the outside.
Mm. Okay, so but you're saying Natasha was placed in a sleeve. What does that mean?
So, as we could give this example, Natasha's not the only one. There were many who came in sleeves. You have got this video game, and there are different levels in the video game, as we described with the densities. And how this works is, many have been on the earth living multiple lives. Some have lived 100, some have lived 50, some have lived thousands, some have lived only 10. There's many who have gone through the cycle of being the planet, being the water, being the physical elements, and then coming into the human life. Those beings are like the players in the video game. Natasha and others who came through in sleeves are like programmers that get put into the game to do a specific purpose, to do a specific thing. So when this came, the outer dimensions were locked. The sleeve is almost as if the energy frequency comes from the inside and sleeves over and not from the outside. So when they lock this dimensional space that the energy cannot come from the outer planes, as we could say, or the higher dimensions in there, they lock this whole dimensional space. That lower could not come in. So everything that was trapped on that space was only on that space. They used these by the machines that the humans had because they were trying to create their own dimensional space.
So it's a certain kind of machines.
Yes, it is a kind of a machine, but it's not the one that was used. The one that was used was destroyed. But the CERN one is a similar concept that they are trying to get to that again because they are still trying. They are like little children. You tell them no, and then they still keep fighting and they still want to do it and throw their tantrums. They are the actual problems of the planet. We do not blame the other density beings because they are not the ones instigating. These ones are calling in the beings, these humans are the ones that are calling in them, creating the problems and creating these spaces, projecting these frequencies because they cannot handle the fact that they are not the ones in control. Yes, when they get to that aspect of themselves, they can immediately remove it. It is so easy, but they are like little children, like, no, we do not want to go. We don't believe in this. We control. We have the money on the planet. We create that. They are so lost in that deep emotion that they can't come out. Their higher selves know that they will not make the jump. So they have agreed to stay behind. However, they experiences, their vessels that now moments of them don't know about these upper exchanges, so they still cause havoc on the planet.
Okay, so you're saying someone like Natasha was shielded, but someone like her mom was actually abused.
Natasha was not shielded. It's when that lock happened. In that first few, as we could say, microseconds when the lock took place, we only, when the energy started to move out to create this lock, we knew of it. And in those microseconds, everybody was called to remove their aspects from that experience. But only those who were in sleeves could get removed. Those who couldn't got locked in, and their higher selves and teams were locked out for 2 years and could not get to them.
Is it the ones that were too focused on that kind of reptilian mind or that root chakra kind of what do you call it, like survival mode, carnal energy? Those are the ones that stayed behind. Is that what you're saying? Because they were kind of feeding, they were already vibrating at that, and it was being fed off.
No, it is to say that that the beings, as we could say now, we will use example of Natasha's family. Natasha's oldest sister and her mother were two players in the game. Natasha, her brother, and her other sister came in sleeves. So when this happened, only the ones in sleeves could get pulled out. Those other ones, they were not vibrating at a lower frequency. They just could not get blipped out because the actual dimensional space got locked. That is why it first had to go to Source, and Source had to only allow us to reset once the mass population got wiped out.
Was it just kind of bad luck that or was it part of their contract to have that experience?
It wasn't a part of any contract. It was beings on the planet decided that they were going to lock the dimensional space so that they could have control of it, so that the higher dimensions could not influence anymore, so that they could actually carry out the evil that they wanted to do. So they created this machine, they locked the space, and then they locked it once all the Draco and other vibrational beings as well came into the space, then they locked it so nobody could go out. Only the humans on the planet who were in sleeves got blipped out. All the other human beings who did not have sleeves did not get blipped out, and that is why many still hold that trauma because they could not get taken out.
Okay, but why? Just sorry, I don't understand the sleeve concept. Why was Natasha, for instance, in the sleeve?
For Natasha's purpose, there are many who came to the planet, who came for a specific purpose to try and help. Natasha's vessel was not created for her to come and learn and gather experiences and knowledge and ascend. She came specifically in to bring the vessel here so our energy can work through her to do specific stuff as for what she is doing. That's the only reason why she was created. So she was created in a sleeve. She did not have to go through karma and different cycles.
Okay, so she was already, that's just the way she is. She was born like that in a sleeve.
Yes, many were born in a sleeve to come to just do a specific purpose to help this ascension.
Okay.
And they were the ones that were blipped out.
So then they also wouldn't kind of amass any karma, I'm assuming. Yes, okay, so that shield kind of blocks on that as well.
Yes, that is why we say that is the signature. Everybody who's in a sleeve is already connected to the heart, and it already creates that sleeve. And even those who now connect to the heart can put themselves in a sleeve, and that's when they go to 5D, because then they do not comply to any of these other frequencies anymore. That is, as we could say in loose terms, ascension.
Yes, okay. But I don't have any kind of, I'm so neutral about this whole concept. What was happening with me in that time?
You have been also in a sleeve.
Yes. Okay, so I was born in that sleeve. You're saying that as well. Okay. And my mom?
Your mother, she was not in a sleeve. However, she was one of those who had, as we could say, a quicker death, who did not build up trauma.
Okay. And for Natasha's mom, how can we help her to release that trauma? How can people who still might be feeling that charge, how can they help themselves to release?
Yes. This is what we have been, as we could say, dealing with. Many of these type of traumas we've tried to heal, but because it happened in the exact vessels that they are in now, it is not like with the past life that we can go in and scan and upgrade that frequency, because it is still in this now body. It is the same with many who are learning lessons and such. They hold on to these things. So for her mother, what we have created in that space is she has to let go of the emotion. That is what is still ripping in her tissue. It is the emotions that she felt going through this process. We have cloaked her mind that she doesn't necessarily going to get back the memories, but she's going to feel those emotions when she releases it. So that is why now she's in agonizing pain. She is feeling the emotion in the area. It is not a physical pain that she's feeling in her body. There is nothing wrong with her tissue and with her body. She's feeling the emotion in that spot, and it was a painful emotion. And so she needs to take that emotion and transmute it out the same way when you deal with different aspects.
What is the emotion that she needs to feel?
The emotion that she is feeling, at most, it is multiple. There's multiple levels of emotions that she's feeling at the same time. The thing is, she needs to start with the anger. She's upset that she got stuck, that she got left, that she got left behind. She's also has a lot of feelings of victimization. This is also happening with the other sister. There are many people actually who are holding that exact same frequency, and now with this new moon charge, it actually doubled out, because it is actually creating a frequency inside to help them push it out of the tissue. It is also that physical pain. When this experience happened, she was so conscious. Usually, vessels, when they get to a certain point of pain, they switch off so that they don't feel it. However, her mother's did not do that. She felt every single piece of it. And that emotion of that physical pain that she felt, it is not an emotion like anger or sadness. It is a physical, that emotion, that pain she felt in that moment as it was happening is the pain that she feels now. And she needs to work it out by releasing it. She can cry, she can scream. There's multiple ways. She just needs to now move it from that spot up to the heart, and the heart will shoot it out. It is to consciously travel the energy through the body. But this must also be done in stages, unfortunately, because of the way that this energy holds, even with those at home. Let us say that pain is in your leg. You need to move it from your leg into your abdomen, and then from your abdomen up into the chest, and from the chest into the heart and out. If you move it directly to there, it can get lost in another spot that can tear the tissue inside the vessel and hurt the vessel. And we do not want people to go hurt themselves. So it is to consciously move it through the spaces. As we could say, move it through the chakra lines. This would be an easier line to move it through than through the physical tissue of the vessel.
Okay. Okay, and what about these stargates you were talking about? As I understand it, those are kind of like express highways to the rest of the universe. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were saying there's something in the heart about that.
Yes. Inside the heart, there is a room of chambers, as we can say. When one gets to that full potential, it's almost as if one walks into this white room, and then anywhere you'd want to go in the universe, you could blip right there. It is a teleportation device, and we're not talking about energetical or conscious travel. We are talking about physical taking the vessel. Once one truly can work from that space, if one thinks of, as we could say, Lemuria and where that was in that time, one can go there and blip. That is the beauty of the technologies in the vessel. This is also why they created that space, is because they did not want people to ascend away and learn this knowledge about how the technologies work in the vessel, because then they would not be dependent on these people. It is almost to say, in lighter terms, we do not mean it as such, but the governments can only control the people when people live in that country or in that space. They are dependent on them to do their roads, to create their money system and do all that. But once people branch away and completely be living with the planet and things and don't need those society forms anymore, they cannot control them or raise the prices for their foods and keep them in certain mind spaces, because they are not dependent on them. They are in their truth. They are only suppressing because there is a dependency. But when one becomes oneself dependent, then one can move around. And they were trying to block that. So they thought if they go back to 94, they can block it before it happens now, which is not the way it worked. But unfortunately created a side story that did not have to be necessary.
Okay, and did that 94 thing have anything to do with the election in South Africa? Because that's when we had our big general election.
Yes. The 94 happened, it started in South Africa because it started as the attack, because this is where it starts. The trickle starts now, the fifth dimensional trickle starts from Africa. This is what the new Atlantis and everything is about. It is not about creating a physical place and this only being the new Atlantis. The new Atlantis is creating the fifth dimensional space. It is creating that lifestyle on the planet that coexists with the planet and then does not work with money and different things. It is just an energetical exchange, and only those who are connected to the heart can be a part of this. If the heart is not connected, it's almost as if the energy is like magnets and they will repel away, and they cannot come into these spaces unless their higher selves have sent them through the cleansing process, which will be the facilities.
What do you mean? And what is that connection to South Africa or Africa and this 94 connection? I don't understand.
So because the trickle starts here, the trickle starts from the root. The root is here in South Africa, the root of the planet, the root chakra. The root healing activates the rest as it goes up. The heart had to be connected in first, and then the root starts, and then it goes into the different ones like that, which creates the whole planet to come online to physically shift into that whole dimensional space, basically. So they wanted to block this ascension because they did not want the planet to ascend to a newer level where they would be stuck on that one, because they would not be able to ascend with. So they thought if they go back to 94 and they create this block and they prevent it from playing out from here, they would lock it from happening in the timeline.
Okay, so you're saying that these beings have actually gone back in time to change things in
Yes.
1994 to prevent what's happening now, which is
Yes.
the root chakra activation.
Yes.
That's just why it's still so fresh in people's memories because it's
Yes.
simultaneous.
Because if we had to go in timeline base, this happened very recent. This did not happen when you all were born in 94 living in that time space. This happened, if we could say, in the last 9 months, that they jumped back with that CERN machine and they used a different one, but we have already destroyed it. We removed it and we wiped their memories from that knowledge. But that is why they are now slightly more aggressive, because they got reset and now they're trying to find another approach to do it again.
That's why it's only the information only came out in the last year,
Yes.
I suppose, because it's actually just like happened in the last year.
Yes, that is why we say time is quantum.
Okay.
Different things are happening at the same time, and they are trying to alter this outcome, which they cannot. But this doesn't mean that they're not going to try to create side stories like this to get the process jambled, as we can say. That is why we are very fixated on telling everyone, because they cannot do things like that if the whole of everyone is connected into the heart. Because like we say, it creates this automatic sleeve. That is what the jump is about, your automatic cocoon into that. So if everybody stops focusing on these altered timelines, because also the more that people are trying to find out about this 94, we are creating a space to magnetize it to come back into this reality space, which we already reset away. But now it's becoming the conscious pull through the collective, because there's different ways of how information and timelines can come together, because we have to still come from the free will. So if the collective is calling it, we cannot reset it from the higher dimensions. We were only allowed to reset it because the amount that made the jump was too little to sustain it, because of the population that got wiped out, that we had to go back. That source allowed us to go back. That is what we are trying to say. So eyes on your own paper, kid. If every single one watching this video who is wanting to go to the jump, if you just stop focusing on everything around you and you physically focus on only on connecting to yourself and your heart, you immediately get locked in. Then when they try to do these things with their machines, they cannot affect you because you are in a sleeve. You have to create the sleeve from the inside, so that your higher self can come through. Because of the way you all have come through on your densities and your journeys, the energy was too strong to come from the inside. That's why it trickled from the outside through guides and influences to get to this point. But the jump is where you don't have to do outside influence anymore. Now you are allowed to open the Stargate on the inside, the portal of the heart, and that is where your true self directly connects in and can move you wherever it wants at any time. So even if a situation arises, the whole planet could blip to a timeline where they don't even exist. That is how much power there is when you can connect to yourself.
But didn't you say the vessels are locked though after Atlantis? Does that have something to do with this?
Yes. So there are certain vessels of certain beings who come in, and many light workers who are involved in this project of the new Atlantean concept. However, this place is not going to be called New Atlantis. It will have a different name, but this will come in that time when it's ready. This name cannot be given at this point, but we will still keep it in that context for many to understand. So this New Atlantis is a space. It is basically creating that fifth dimensional space of living, and it does not matter if the outside forces do not want you to do that. They physically can't go in there. It's like the Atlantis concept. That's why we call it such as like magnets. Only those who want, even if someone has so much darker aspects on them, but they want to be there, they will go through this process of where the energy transmutes off them, and then when they get there, they get connected in and they can't go back. So that is what it is about. The new Atlantis is basically creating these filterization systems where those who are on this planet can connect to that frequency and not have to jump back. That is what the new Earth is about.
Okay, but what if they wanted to go back?
Then they would not go to the sleeve in the first place. This is why the call was sent. When the call was sent, many were asked who would want to go and who would want to stay. That decision was already made when the call was given. Now, when you are here in your vessels, that's why even many people who some would think are not aligned or ascended suddenly just start changing because their aspect is already agreed, their higher self has already agreed. That is why these locations won't even be given openly. Many will just be called to go to a certain town or certain place, and then when they get there, they'll go, "Oh, here's this facility, here's this place," and then they will randomly get there. Some would randomly read a pamphlet about a place or read someone's story. Many are just going to find these places and get called there. You do not have to sit and wait for the information, is what we're trying to say. When these stations are ready and up, the people will just come. They will just be there. They will get flocked to it to get cleaned. Many are stagnant waiting on this planet now just so that they can have these facilities because they did not come in sleeves. They can't just jump to the 5D. They are waiting for this filterization so that they can create a sleeve. So basically, it is a type of this facility is a type of mechanism that is going to, when they come in, create a sleeve, and then when they go out, they are connected and they go about their way. And it is just creating this transmutation energy field where they can have that opportunity. And then only intelligence that they will receive from is from that inside and in their field, and they won't be able to receive from outside forces. However, they would still be able to connect to outside forces, as, for example, still talk to ET races, still talk to different dimensional planes, but your human aspect will only be able to be influenced from your own energy.
Okay, so you wouldn't be able to connect with the 3D anymore then?
Yes, you won't be living on that planet. That the 3D construct is not the physical plane. It is, as we could say at this moment, it is still the society concept. 3D is still this work, consume, buy, die concept of I must pay rent, I must buy food. That is the 3D. But the people can't move away from that if they don't have other system to move to. And this is what the new Atlantis is this new system. And it's not a new money system. It's not a new way. It is physically, it is a heart-based system. Everyone cares for each other. The exchange is through energy, and everybody is so in tune with that heart frequency that they could feel everybody's intentions. It's not that everyone is going to hear each other's thoughts and know what the others is thinking, but they're going to know what each other is feeling. So if you have ill will towards anyone else, they will feel it immediately and know it, and you will know that they know. So there can no longer be doubts between people. So even when you talk to an extraterrestrial, you immediately know their intentions and what is happening, as if there can be no manipulation.
Yes. Well, we were talking about that earlier. It's people who are typically are not wanting to let go of the old is because they don't actually have an alternative. They don't actually know what they want.
Exactly.
So you can't tell someone to let go of a construct if they don't have a new construct to look forward to, like, for instance, the new Atlantis.
Exactly. Everybody is now in this, as we would say, limbo effect, in the silent state. Everybody's just waiting to get directed. There is a group scattered all over who are doing light work together, and it is now starting to phase in. Remember, we know all this is going to happen and how it's going to happen. However, the timing needs to be right on the planet. It is not a thing of saying on this date, at this time, this specific thing is going to happen. If the planetary energy is not ready, we can't do that, because if we create such higher dimensional spaces and people are still struggling to connect to themselves, if they force themselves to that space and they have not connected to themselves first, their shadows are going to jump at them, and basically they are going to be so attacked that it's going to keep them away. It's almost to say that the light is so bright that their own demons jump into their perception, and this is what's going to prevent many from getting there. And the avoidance is to start with small steps. That's why messages like this is given. So when those have already created that concept, that conscious concept, to accept the heart, that when they go through these stages, it's a cleansing process. These things are going to pop up at them regardless. But when it happens in that moment, they understand that it needs to happen so they connect to their heart, that they allow it to pass out, and connect instead of going into that mindset frequency, into that life, and then getting lost into that concept.
Good. People seem to be still struggling to understand how they would be guided to these, these pyramids or new Atlantises.
That is what we say. If you, when you're connected to your heart, it's like that gut instinct. It's like saying, suddenly today, I feel like going to the ocean. I don't know why, but I feel like today I want to go lie in the sun. And then when you get there, you bump into somebody and you have a conversation, and this person says to you, "Oh, sorry I bumped you." And you say, "Oh, yes, I'm sorry. At least, are you having a nice day?" This person could say, "Yes, I am, because I feel refreshed and new. I feel healed." And then you would say, "I too have come for healing." And this person would say, "Well, I'm transmuting healing here because I received healing from this facility at this place." It will be physical exchanges of information. They will physically get told, "Go to this place," and at the time that they are ready to go. But we are not going to tell them where these places are beforehand, because if they are not ready, they are going to harm the vessels. And our job is not here to calm their minds and their spirit. That is their higher selves and team's job. We are strictly here to help the vessels. We do not want them to be over eager and not deal with their stuff and physically rip the light and the tissue in the vessels, because this is going to cause more trauma and therefore the energy won't be able to exist.
Okay.
It can go either way. That is why we are prepping everybody. We have never done a jump like this in full mute. We have seen it in the energetical, and we have seen the future timelines of what potential to where it can be and how it is going to be. However, we are still living in this now moment with everybody going there. It is to say, the same as the concepts of destiny. You're going to get to that day, but we don't know how you are going to get there. If some do that work now, it could be a smooth transition. Some might have an agonizing transition mentally, physically, emotionally, if they don't already start with these concepts. We are trying to create it easier. Some vessels will take more strain and they will go through more pain, and then they will get healed and eventually they'll be there. But if they make this connection with their heart now, they won't have to go through those periods of pain and unnecessary hurt. This is what we're trying to say.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else about the 1994 drama?
No, as we said, we do not want to go deeper into it because that timeline has been reset. That timeline has been wiped for a reason, because if more stay in there, it is pulling yourself out of where you need to go. Just focus now on going forward and trying to transmute this energy out and let it go.
Well, why does this information have to come through now? Was it for the people still holding on to the trauma?
Yes, we found that when the higher selves and the teams have gone to try and scan the bodies, the vessels were taking too much strain. The vessels called out and said that they cannot transcend to the next level holding this in them. It's going to hurt them. And that is why it was decided that bits of information could be given so that only those who are physically struggling with the trauma, whether it be some are struggling mentally with it, some, it did not lie in their tissue and cause a physical pain, but it's still causing them to be victimized, anger. It's still causing them to feel so much trauma now. It's still causing them to not be able to sustain relationships with family members now. Some, it is more physical, that they have so much pain and they've tried everything. The usual healing and meditation is not working. And so this is why we have to get this information out to them, because only if they understand why it is happening, they can go with a more clearer mind to find how to heal.